Welcome to First Down Punts, a show about the on-field and off-the-field news in the world of pro football, as well as how it relates to fantasy football all season long. Thanks for joining in, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And now, here is your host, Orcus.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome in to First Down Punts. I'm Orcus, your host. Today, we're going to be going over our top 40 rookie dynasty rankings for all the players drafted this year and see who ends up where. I know there's going to be some people that disagree with some people on this list, but hey, that's what we're here for. Give us your comments, give us your likes, give us your dislikes, whatever you want to talk about. I'm happy to hear it. Other than that, guys, we're going to get in this top 40, see what's going on. So, for the top 40 rookies, we're going to start at number 40 and go down to number 1. At number 40, we have Gunnar Helm, tight end out of Texas. Got drafted by Tennessee in the 5th round, I think, 6th round, something like that. I like Gunnar Helm as a receiving prospect. I think he needs to improve on some lower body strength to become a better blocker and stuff. But with a Conquil there in Tennessee already, I think he's going to be used more as a second tight end, a receiving option, and could grow into something next year. But for right now, I got him at number 40, and just want to see what he gets into, man, see how good he can be. I do know I like it, the way he runs routes and the way he catches the ball. So as a fantasy option, that's what you're looking for. On to number 39, Trevor Etienne, running back, got drafted to Carolina. His brother Travis plays for Jacksonville. But Trevor Etienne, talented kid, a little bit smaller. And in Carolina, he's got Chuba Hubbard. Jonathan Brooks is on IR, but they signed Rico Dowdle from Dallas, so he's going to have to beat out Dowdle to beat out number 2. That's why I got him down here instead of higher. If Dowdle wouldn't have got signed, I'd have ETN at the much higher on this list because he'd be the number 2 running back with Brooks basically out for the season. But I like ETN. I think he's got some potential. Dowdle's there for 1 year. You get this guy, you put him in your taxi spot, and wait till next year for Dowdle to be gone. Other than that, we're going to move on. 38. Quinn Ewers, quarterback out of Texas, another Texas guy this quick. He went to Miami in the 7th round, which was a steal. I figured he was going to end up being like a 5th or 6th round pick. Quinn Ewers was at one time ranked number 1 quarterback coming into this draft a couple years ago, and then shit happens, and he dropped, obviously, from a 1st round pick to a 7th round pick, but Quinn Ewers has got talent. I think he's going to be a career backup. But in Miami with Tua and his health history, Quinn Ewers could be a fantasy stud this year for all we know. He's a guy that I think you should be taking at the end of all your drafts and see what happens, at least for this year. Nothing else. You drop him in the middle of the season if Tua's playing fine, being healthy. But he's the guy you're going to want if Tua gets banged up. I know Zach Wilson got signed there, but I don't like Zach Wilson. I never have. I never will as a quarterback prospect. Ain't got nothing wrong with the person. I don't even know him. But as a quarterback prospect, I am not a Zach Wilson fan. So I like that they got Quinn Ewers, and I think he'll probably beat out Zach Wilson for the number 2 spot. Maybe it takes a year, maybe it doesn't. But he's a guy, like I said, throwing into your bench or at the end of your draft, throw on your taxi squad and see what happens. Number 37, we got a Rondé Gadsden, the second. I'm about to say the third. That's Luther. The second tight end out of – where the hell did he go? Miami, I think. Yeah, Miami was there with Cam Ward. But went to the Chargers. Now, they signed Conklin. They still got Will Dissly. This kid's going to take a year to develop, mainly because he needs to be a better blocker and just get a little bit better on technical parts of running routes. But he's a hell of a receiver and did real well for Cam Ward and the Hurricanes last year. So, like I said, another guy. You're down here this late in the draft. You're probably not going to get a lot of production out of these guys. And you're taking shots in the dark hoping that, hey, man, I hope this guy pans out because he's got some talent. Some years there's deep running backs, some years deep tight ends, some years there's deep wide receivers or quarterbacks. This year I feel like it's tight ends and running backs, obviously the running backs, but I feel like there's a lot of tight ends in this group, man, that could be impact players here in a couple of years, maybe next year, maybe as soon as this year for some of them. Sit here. Barney's joining in. Going to say what's up. Say what's up. Ah! All right, come on. So number 36, DJ Giddens, running back out of Kansas State, went to Indianapolis. Talented running back. He was a later round draft pick, but going to the Colts is a good landing spot because they got Jonathan Taylor, who's I think 27 this year. and signed Khalil Herbert as a backup, but Giddens could probably beat him out. I'm still a Herbert fan, but I think Giddens is probably a more talented running back than him. So Giddens could end up the number 2 here by week 4, week 5, if not earlier. And Taylor's been known to miss games. You get Giddens as a running back at this late in the draft as a crapshoot, man, just rolling the dice on a guy. That's the type of player you're looking for in the 4th round. So draft Giddens in the 4th if you need a running back. Some late running back because you missed out on the guys early. But definitely a talented player. Landed in, I think, like a good landing spot was there for him in Indianapolis. Number 35, Dante Thornton Jr., wide receiver out of Las Vegas. I love this guy. I know not everybody's as high on him, but I think he's a physical specimen at 6'5", 215, 220 or whatever it is. And if he puts on 10 pounds, he's just going to be bullying people downfield. He's going to be a big play receiver, and develop more on his route running as far as crossing routes, stuff like that, all the footwork and everything it takes. But he is a big downfield player. And going to Las Vegas there with Geno, who can throw the deep ball, I like what they're doing there. I know they drafted Jack Beck as well, but with him, Myers, Thornton, and Bowers, Geno's got a ton of talent around him right now. So I got Thornton at 35 because he was a later draft pick for them. He's a 4th round pick, I think, which isn't super late, which says, hey, we want this guy. And I love the guy. I told you, he was one of my favorite players. Maybe not. He was. I think I had him at 12 or something like that as a receiver coming out, just because I think there's more talent in this receiver group than a lot of people do. But number 34, we got Mitchell Evans, tight end out of Notre Dame, ended up in Carolina. Dude, he got injured last year, and if he hadn't been, he would probably be a 2nd round, 3rd round pick. He ends up going, I think, in the 6th round he went, but ended up in Carolina where they need a true tight end. This guy is Mark Andrews, man. That's who he reminds me of every time I watch his tape, is Mark Andrews. If you get Mark Andrews there with Bryce Young and helping him out, I think he could be the starter by the second half of the season, if not first day, starting day 1 next year. But talented kid, can block and pass catch, knows how to box out in the end zone. So just a guy I like, man. I like watching tape on, and I'm glad he landed somewhere where he has a chance to possibly start. And it's going to be exciting to see what happens. Number 33, we got Jaquez Hunter, running back. Ended up at the Rams out there with McVay. And I know they got Kyron as a starter, and they drafted Blake Corum last year. He's not somebody you're counting on this year, more than likely. He could do kick return, punt returns, be a special teamer this year, but you're not really starting a guy that's only doing that for fantasy. This is more of a long-term play, whereas if Kyron was to get hurt or Blake Corum just didn't continue to improve or something, he's just a piece that if you draft him, it's always good to have running back. So this is like a 4th round guy. He might go undrafted in a lot of leagues, but just a talented running back that, hey, man, right situation. That's all you're doing down here is grabbing lottery tickets, man, hoping one of them hits. So another lottery ticket here is number 32, Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Kansas City. This guy flew up a lot of people's draft board. Ends up in a great spot in Kansas City where he's not needed this year, but if Rice doesn't make it back and Marquise Brown, he's older now, maybe he slows down a little bit. Juju is just a guy. Maybe Royals can pass some of these guys on the depth chart and take over one of those like 3 wide receiver spots, top 3 wide receiver spots, and see what's going on from there. I mean, you look at Kansas City needs playmakers, man. That's just it. They've been down in scoring the last couple years. You get Jalen Royals out there running routes, moving around. This type of guy that Patty Mahomes would probably fall in love with. Number 31, Alec Ayomaner, wide receiver out of Stanford, ended up in Tennessee with Cam Ward, which you like that. He was actually the 2nd wide receiver they drafted. They drafted, I forget how it's Chimere Dickey. I think I called him Dyke, but I think it's pronounced Dickey. But I'm not a fan. That guy was like a 6th round value, 7th round value, and they drafted him way too early. Whereas Alec Ayomaner, they actually got a good value on, maybe a little bit later than he should have went. And I think he's the better player and going to end up being a better player for Tennessee overall over the course of their careers. This year, maybe doesn't start right away. Maybe he ends up on the second half of the season coming on. Maybe you don't draft him and you pick him up in the middle of the season or something, or you draft him, put on your taxi squad. You got a deep team. You don't really need him. He's the type of guy you get here in the fourth round. And I like the player himself, player profile, all that good stuff. This guy's a route running, ball catching fool, man. So he ends up there with Cam Ward. They signed Restrepo as an undrafted free agent. So he would probably be higher if it wasn't for the fact that they have Ridley. They drafted the tight end. They got a Conquest still. I don't really know exactly what Callahan and them want to do in Tennessee yet because they never really had a quarterback that could show it with the Mayo man down there acting a damn fool at quarterback. But yeah, I mean, A.M. Mainer's a good player and ended up Tennessee's a good landing spot, then grow his offense as a bunch of young guys. Ridley's there as a vet to teach him how to do the things. I still like Ridley a lot, man. I still think he's a hell of a receiver. He's not a top 10 guy like he was, 5-6 years ago in Atlanta. But A.M. Mainer's got talent, man. I think I don't know how much we'll see this year, but next year definitely we'll see it. So, number 30, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback in Cleveland. Obviously, we know he came from Colorado. Let's talk about Shedeur for a minute. There's a lot of bullshit being said right now. There's collusion by the NFL against Shedeur. Oh, it's this, it's that. Shedeur should have been a first-round pick. I've already told you Shedeur should have been a third-round pick. With all the headache and everything else, I understand if he dropped to the fourth. I thought where he got drafted fifth was a little bit late based off. I still think he has talent that can be developed, but humility is you guys can – I don't care who's trying to defend him. The problem is we got a bunch of players that are buddies or of Deion's or big fans of Deion's and want to get on TV and try to tell you this guy should have been a first-round pick when he shouldn't have been a first fucking round pick. Now, should have Dylan Gabriel been drafted ahead of him? Fuck no. I said this in the review. I'm going to say this again. No, Dylan Gabriel's in the top 40 just for a heads up. He ain't going to be on this list either. He wants to prove something to me, then go do it. I'll put him in my list for rankings for guys to draft next year or free agent pickups throughout the season. But Dylan Gabriel shouldn't have got drafted before Shedeur Sanders or Will Howard or Kyle McCord, period. Dylan Gabriel probably should have been an undrafted free agent. I don't know what the fuck the Browns are doing other than trying to prove a point, I guess. But here's the thing about collusion by the NFL against Shedeur. What GM, head coach, or NFL owner, if they have a first or second round grade on a guy, would not draft the guy that will help them win games? Let me remind y'all what Herm said. You play to win the game. Nothing is more important than that. You see that. You see talented guys getting in trouble off the field. Guess what? They're still on the fucking team. You know why? Because they can run a 4-4 and they catch bombs down the field. Or they break tackles. Or they're a tackling machine on defense. People do fucked up shit all the time. Shedeur didn't do none of that fucked up shit. What Shedeur did was he got handed packets and from teams to study so he could come in and describe how offenses are supposed to be ran. Some teams put a trick in there to try to fool them. Yeah, that's what teams do in evaluations. You're at the most important position in the game. They need to know you can think through things. They need to know you understand how to process defenses. They need to know what you can and can't do so they know where to draft you. And if you don't want to do that shit, Shedeur, then you shouldn't have tried to be a quarterback in the NFL. Let me tell you something. Not for long. Do you know what that's what the NFL stands for? Not for long. You don't want to do your shit? Guess how long you're going to be in there? Not for long. That's the facts, man. If you ain't willing to put the work in, you will not be in the NFL for long. You are a fifth-round pick. They will cut you before training camp. So advice from an old guy to a young guy, put in the fucking work, man. Stop talking. Stop being on social media. We already seen that you didn't get drafted where you thought you were going to get drafted. Stop listening to all this outside noise and start playing football if you want to get better. That's it. But back to what I was saying. Shedeur Sanders at 30, because I told you, I think Shedeur Sanders is Geno Smith. I think it's going to take a year or two for him to develop into that. But I think that's the best he's probably ever going to be is Geno Smith. I don't think he's that right now. I think that's who his comparison, player comp, and projection is because, and Geno Smith's a wonderful person, a really good quarterback at times, especially when the setup is good. You put players around Geno Smith like they just did in Las Vegas, like he had in Seattle with some talent, especially a couple of years ago when the offensive line was holding up. Geno Smith can be a very effective player, but Geno Smith is not going to take a team to the Super Bowl. Geno Smith is going to be a part of a team on a Super Bowl. So, Shador, if you want to be part of a team going to a Super Bowl, start giving a shit about everybody around you more than yourself. You have to get better. You have to be a better player, teammate, adult. You're one of the older quarterbacks coming in. I think you're 23, 24 coming into the draft. Where's that maturity at, dude? Everybody's getting their ass kissed who ain't done nothing. And at the end of the day, that's why you got drafted in the 5th. Because you thought everybody was going to kiss your ass and draft you where you said. Your dad thought he could control where you got drafted. None of that was true, man. None of it. But on to number 29, one of my favorite wide receivers in the draft, Jaden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State to Houston. They drafted both Iowa State receivers, which I loved because I like both of those guys. I like Noel better than I like Higgins, and I like Higgins a lot. But he's down here because I think he plays more of the Nico role, and Jalen Noel would be playing more of that slot receiver and underneath stuff with his route running capability and his snatch ability of the ball out the air. And Higgins is a big receiver. Now, you put him on one side, you put Nico on the other, and Christian Kirk, who they traded for, if healthy, he might start over Jalen Noel. But I think long-term, I would rather have Jalen Noel than Higgins simply because I like the capability of short game, the slot routes. It's just more targets are going to be involved. Higgins is a big downfield player that you're going to need the big play to happen. So I got him down here at 29, but I love the kid as a receiver, period. No problems. Number 28, Ollie Gordon II, running back out of Miami, was at Oregon State, right? No, I'm sorry, Oklahoma State. I don't know why I said Oregon State. Oklahoma State. I like Ollie Gordon a lot. I couldn't believe he dropped as far as he did down here to the 7th. I think Miami got a steal, and I think he could come in and compete with Jalen Wright for that number 2 spot and take over that Raheem Mostert role. And as a power back in that Miami offense, as long as everybody's healthy, everything's going okay, it's a valuable position for fantasy football. We saw it 2 years ago with Mostert scoring 21, 22 touchdowns, whatever it was. And if Gordon can take over that spot, fantasy gold here in the end of the third. So just a guy I like a lot. Like I said, he's comparable to Joe Mixon to me. So number 27, we got Dylan Sampson, running back drafted to Cleveland out of Tennessee. I had this guy way higher than he got drafted. That's my personal opinion on him. I was really pissed he went to Cleveland because they just drafted Judkins and killed both of their fantasy value, I feel like, a little bit. But Jerome Ford's dead. Sorry, buddy. Not that you might not be involved in the game plan, but with Sampson and Judkins there, Ford, you can go ahead and probably cut him. If you can try to trade him for a 4th-round pick next year or something, so be it. But at the end of the day, I would be happy to have Dylan Sampson on any team but the team that Judkins went to, man. But all the same, I like both of them as running back prospects, but I got Sampson down here because he was drafted later. Judkins is going to be the starter. Sampson will be the backup competing with Ford for snaps. And a year from now, Sampson's probably the number 2. But Sampson could be involved in the game plan all season long if what I see on tape progresses in training camp and into the season. So he could be a player that's valuable as hell in the second half of the season, just as a split back guy with Judkins and the big play capability type guy with Judkins being the pounder. And you see that happen, you'll be real happy to have both of them. So I like it a lot. I like that Cleveland did it for their team. Didn't like it that he ended up with Judkins at the same spot because I wanted them both to have a chance to start this year. But we'll see what happens. On to number 26, Cam Skattebo, running back, going to the Giants. Guy that a lot of people love this guy. I feel like he's just more of a bruising back, not really big play capability guy, just a guy that's going to be in between the tackles, pounder. He can get outside a little bit, and he's got decent speed, so it's not like he doesn't. But with Tracy there, he's going to be the pass catching back and still be splitting the first and second down stuff. Scatterboo's going to be short yardage and between the 20s type player probably, but still got value. And if the Giants with Russ there, he loves dumping off the running back. So even if Scatterboo's on the field and they switch to a pass play, he can get some catches. Don't fool yourself. Just a guy that's going to be in a good position with him and Tracy running a split backfield that both are going to have value. None of them are going to be dominant probably. So we'll see what happens, though. Hopefully the Giants' O-line plays better this year. That'll help a lot for both those players. Number 25, Devin Neal, running back out of Kansas, went to the New Orleans Saints. I love this landing spot for this kid. I think it's an incredible landing spot for him because there's Kendre Miller is Kendre Miller. I know Dennis Allen's goofy ass put him in the doghouse and put him on IR because he needed to get some training. I forget what the whole story was behind it. Dennis Allen's a moron when it comes to being a head coach. Good defensive coordinator, not a very good head coach. I don't think he did a very good job as far as handling the way he ran that team, and that's why he's out of a job, and Kellen Moore's there now. But with Kamara getting up there, getting Devin Neal later in the draft, who in a lot of other drafts, you keep hearing this about all these running backs. A lot of other drafts, they would have been drafted higher. Devin Neal is just another one of those players. But getting there in the Saints, he could take over that number 2 spot before the season starts and be a very valuable player for fantasy. And Kamara, older, and not as good as a runner as he used to be. And he was never a dominant runner. He's always been a dominant pass catcher. But you get Devin Neal in there, give him some carries, let him get involved in the offense. Tyler Shuck or Derek Carr, whoever's playing quarterback, gets the offense moving. You got those deep play capability players that could open up the underneath stuff and running lanes. So New Orleans can be sneaky good if everything clicks. Now, I still think they need to get a couple offensive linemen, so we'll see what happens now post-draft free agency. But Devin Neal's a guy that I think you'll want on your team here and by the end of this year and going into next year. Number 24, Jack Beck, wide receiver out of Las Vegas. Hey, they paid up to get this guy. He's going to be higher up on the board than he would have been. To me, that means Pete Carroll is planning on using this guy. And with Myers there and Bowers there, other than Myers, like Trey Tucker's a deep ball specialist, but they got Dante Thornton, who's a bigger than Trey Tucker guy. So I think Trey Tucker's fantasy value is all but dead now. And with Jack Beck getting there, him and Myers and Bowers are going to be the 1, 2, 3 with Genty in the backfield. I think it could be a potent offense for fantasy as long as Geno's upright and they need to re-sign Colton Miller and make sure they got him. But definitely a guy that has a lot of fantasy potential going into this year. Number 23, Harold Fannin Jr., tight end out of Cleveland. Not a great landing spot. They got 5 quarterbacks, which everybody says really they got 4 because Deshaun Watson's probably never taken another snap in the NFL. But Flacco can wing it. I assume they're running a lot of 2 tight end personnel because they still got David Njoku. That's why I say it's not a great landing spot. But Harold Fannin Jr. is still a receiving weapon. And Stefanski's going to know how to use that. I feel like Harold Fannin Jr. and Colston Loveland are going to be used the same way a lot. They're going to be that second tight end, split out wide or whatever, and especially red zone stuff with their size. But just a reception master, man. I mean, he can catch the ball anywhere, anyway you need him to. And getting them there in Cleveland, they need weapons. I think this could end up being their number 2 wide receiver instead of who the hell they got? I don't know. They got Judy as number 1, and they got Njoku. Fannin could definitely be their number 2 receiver going into this year. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think that's a big possibility of how they're going to run things. And a lot of potential. Number 22. People are not going to have this guy this high. People are going to have this guy as a 4th-round pick. I have number 22 being Will Howard, quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers out of Ohio State. National champion, clutch player, ends up where I had talked about him ending up in my quarterback ranking video, which was in Pittsburgh behind Aaron Rodgers. Will Howard's going to end up being the starting quarterback here, possibly day 1. Definitely next year, probably. I think Rodgers only going to sign a 1-year deal. Maybe he signs a 2-year deal and retires after this year. But even if they don't sign Rodgers, Will Howard's your starter day one in my mind. I think he can beat out Mason Rudolph in the preseason training camp just because of the potential. You know what Mason Rudolph is. Will Howard's got more potential than Mason Rudolph. And with DK and Pickens and the Muth, Pat Fryermuth, and with superstar Kaleb Johnson at running back, Pittsburgh could have a sneaky good offense this year too for fantasy. And it's something you guys should be paying attention to. Arthur Smith could be the problem with why it isn't, but we've seen him as a head coach in Atlanta. But I'm just telling you right now, you get Will Howard there, you get that run game going, using that play action to go deep with those guys. I think he could be a sneaky good quarterback in fantasy this year as a backup, and if not this year, going in the next year. So quarterback's valuable, especially this is 2 tight ends or 2 quarterback SuperFlex leagues type rankings. So I guess I should have said that at the beginning. But at the end of the day, Will Howard's got some potential to end up being a starting quarterback this year. So draft him. And don't draft him in the second. Draft him in the third, into the third, beginning of the fourth. And be happy when he turns into something. Number 21. My third tight end in this NFL draft. Rookie Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. Ended up with the Los Angeles Rams. I think this is an awesome landing spot for him. Terrence Ferguson fits what the Rams do, which is a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection, a lot of in and out routes, and great pass catchers. Terrence Ferguson is a great pass catcher. He's going to be out there playing like Puka, playing like Kupp used to. He's a guy that I think could take over the tight end spot this year, middle of the season, maybe before that. Terrence Ferguson is a talented damn player. And getting him there with that offense, Higbee has shown he's not special, period. What's his name? Davis, I think is the kid's last name that they drafted a couple years ago. Not special. Terrence Ferguson has a special talent. And that's why they drafted him in the second round. Because Terrence Ferguson has skills, man. I would have drafted him over Taylor. Like I said, he was the number 3 tight end on my board. It was Warren, Loveland, Terrence Ferguson. Because Terrence Ferguson is an awesome fucking player. I hate that the Rams got him because I'm a Lions fan. I always talk about it. I don't like when teams I don't even like when any team's getting better. That's if it ain't my team. That's the way I feel about it. But for fantasy, I love this guy. I think he's gonna be a sneaky ass pick, man. You get this guy at the end of the second, middle of the third range. Hell, some drafts you might be able to get him in a fourth with all these running backs that are going to get drafted. But I think you need to play it smart. See where he goes in your first draft. Start reacting off of that because the closer we get to the season, the higher this guy is going to get drafted. And you want him now, get him in now. Get him late now, get him into the third now, and just be waiting to smile. That's how I feel about it because you're going to be happy as hell with this guy on your team. Number 20. The other Iowa State wide receiver, Jalen Noel. Like I said, he went to Houston too. Like I said, they drafted both Iowa State receivers. And like I said with Higgins, I think Noel's going to be a quicker impact player for them. He's going to be the slot guy. He's going in and out of routes, and he is an excellent route runner. That's why I got him up this high. If he would have went to a different team, he would be higher. The fact that he went to Houston where they already have Nico and traded for Christian Kirk. I was surprised Houston didn't take a tight end high. So when they took 2 receivers, I was like, oh, okay. They're going to go ahead and keep riding with Schultz and get these receivers going. They know Tank Dell's probably not playing this year. He had to have a second surgery. And with Kirk coming off injury, you don't know what he's going to be. I think Houston did a great job getting both of these guys. They both could end up being valuable this year, but I think the odds of one or the other, I'm going to take Jalen Noel, even though he was drafted second. I love the kid. He was my third receiver off the board, fourth receiver. It was him and Igbuka right there by each other. So I like them over Burden and Golden and all those guys. I love Jalen Noel, man. He reminds me of Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you looking for a guy that is going to be an impact player for a long time, I feel like Jalen Noel fits that mold. Number 19, Luther Burden, the third wide receiver out of Missouri, ended up in Chicago at the top of the second round. I only got him up ahead of Jalen Noel because of draft capital. I think he's getting drafted to be the number 3 receiver behind DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, who they drafted last year in the first round. I was, like I said in the draft grade video, I was shocked by this pick. Not because Burton's doesn't have talent. I think this was early for him, but I know a lot of people had him around here, so whatever. I'm not going to keep getting into that. I'm going to get into the fact that you drafted a third receiver. And what is that going to do for fantasy value? It's hard to determine are they going to trade DJ Moore? Is Odunze take a back seat because of what he was a first round fucking pick. He was number 9 overall. He's not taking a backseat to Burton. DJ Moore is coming off a 1,300-yard season or something. He's not taking a backseat. So either they're trading DJ Moore or Burton's going to have to wait a year and going to be involved here and there in gadget plays and stuff like that. But I don't see him making a huge impact this year. I think this is a down the line play. But he is a talented player. He has high draft capital. So take him here as the 19th player. That's why he's down here. I mean, he could be higher if he would have been the number 2 receiver on the team. So what do you do? But number 18, Kyle Williams, wide receiver, going to the New England Patriots. I think he's going to be their number 1 wide receiver over Diggs in the second half of the season. I like Diggs. Don't fool yourself. I think Diggs is still a talented receiver. Him getting banged up, man, you got to see where he's coming back from. But Kyle Williams has got talent. And by week 9, week 10, he could be taking over the number 1 spot in New England for Drake May. Drake May needs weapons. Kyle Williams is a weapon. He is a downfield threat, man. He had, I think, almost 1,200 yards last year, like 95 catches or something. He's got talent. He's got hands, and he's got speed. So getting him to go to New England where they need wide receivers, it just boosts his value. He could be higher maybe on some people's boards, but a lot of these running back stuff I got a value. So, but number 17, we got Matthew Golden, wide receiver in Green Bay. I might change this, put Kyle Williams above him, just because Matthew Golden, another guy, goes to a team that's already got a bunch of receivers. Now, is he better than the receivers they have? Maybe. He's faster than all of them. That's for damn sure. They spent the capital on him at pick 23 or whatever it was in the first round. I wasn't as high on Matthew Golden's receiving talent, techniques, route running. All that needs to be improved to me. I think Green Bay got exactly what they already had in the first round. I think it's going to take some time for Golden to develop if he ever does. But as I've said in a lot of the videos, he's got 2 NFL draft players. One got drafted in Ewers. The other one's Arch Manning is the backup who filled in last year. And he still didn't have 1,000 yards, even though the Isaiah Bond missed time as the number 2 receiver. I have a problem with that. If you're a deep guy and you don't have over 1,000 yards, what happened? I keep asking this question. What happened? Now, his draft capital says they're putting him out there. He'll probably be a starting receiver in 3 wide receiver sets for sure, possibly 2 wide receiver sets with him and Romeo Doubs, because Watson's out. He tore his I think his Achilles. It was maybe his ACL. I'd have to look at that. Towards the end of the season, and he's going to be out this year probably. Maybe he gets back for the end of the year playoffs if they make the playoffs. But Golden's going to be involved. That's why I got to put him up here. I just don't know. Like I said, he's not dominant to me. The only thing, he's got the speed, and Love can wing it. So you got to hope that that's their plan, is that they can hit on some deep balls that Wicks couldn't catch and Watson couldn't stay healthy to run. We'll see what happens. Green Bay could have got a steal, but like I said, I wasn't a huge Golden guy to begin with. So going to Green Bay where they already got some pass catchers, we'll see what happens. But he's here at 17 for the simple fact of draft capital, and that speed is enticing. Number 16, this is probably a little high for this guy, but I think he could end up being the number 1 running back in Dallas this year. That's Jonathan Blue out of Texas, another Texas guy. Texas had this. That's what's so confusing about this, Golden. You had so many other players around you to take the attention away that you should be running downfield wide open with that 4.28 speed, man. But Jonathan Blue, he's a receiving back that has some running back capabilities, but he's definitely going to be on the field for Dallas. They need a guy that they can count on third downs to catch the damn ball. I like Rico Dowdle. I was surprised that they didn't keep him, and they went and got Javonte Williams, who's got some receiving chops, but I think he's going to be more of the first and second down back. And Jaden Blue is going to be – but Jaden Blue could end up with 65 catches this year. That's just a fact because they didn't draft another receiver. Tight end got to stay healthy if he's going to be helpful. And Javonte Williams is what he is, man. That's the best way to put it. He is what he is. Obviously, he got banged up in Denver, and then they kept drafting running backs, and it just crowded backfield, so he left, ends up here. And they signed Miles Sanders as well, who I think is about done. He had some huge explosion last year towards the end of the year in a fill-in spot start for Carolina. But other than that, Miles Sanders ain't done shit in a couple of years. And there was a reason Philly let him go. So I'm not worried about him. I think Blue will pass him up immediately. And it's really, can he pass Javonte before the start of the season? If he does, he could be higher than 16. If he doesn't, he could be around 24, 25 maybe. Probably a little bit higher. Probably around 20 is probably as low as I'd put Blue, just because of his receiving capabilities. So number 15, Colston Loveland, tight end out of Chicago. Never huge on drafting rookie tight ends high, but Loveland's a hell of a receiver. I don't love that where he went in Chicago with Cole Kmet already there, who they just paid. They drafted Burden in the second round. They got more. They just got a shit ton of options, and it's going to damper his potential to be a fantasy stud. Whereas if he had went to a team that didn't really have a starting tight end, like anybody that you can speak of, and didn't have three receivers they're trying to get the ball to, Loveland could have much higher fantasy value this year alone. But for Dynasty, Colston Loveland's here at 15 because I think he is going to have value over the course of his career. He's going to have a 10, 12-year career as a receiving tight end. I just can't put him any higher based off where he landed and the amount of other pass catches they have there. It's hard to do. And he's not a great blocker. So with Cole Kmet there, Cole Kmet's going to be on the field when they just need a blocking tight end. And so Loveland's off the field. It's one less opportunity if they have to change the play and they end up throwing it. Now Cole Kmet's the option instead of Loveland. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're going to work with Loveland on blocking stuff, but he's a big wide receiver to me. They're going to be playing him in the slot like a Jimmy Graham type player, and it's going to be hard to do that. And you have all three wide receivers on the field and Cole Kmet when they want to do that. It's just a lot of decisions to be made. It's going to dampen the value of Colston Loveland. But number 14, we got the quarterback Jaxson Dart that the Giants traded back up into the first round to get. This is a dynasty draft, but Jaxson Dart shouldn't be going past 15 in any draft for the simple fact that he's a projected starter day one next year. Winston will probably be the backup there. Russ will probably leave and try to go somewhere else to be a starter for another year for a team that needs one. But for this year, they say Russ is going to start. Jaxson Dart could take his job just because of potential. Just because if Russ has another leg injury like he did last year or something else, shoulder or whatever, if Russ has to miss time in the preseason, Jaxson Dart's going to be playing in the regular season. If the Giants suck, Jaxson Dart's going to be playing by week 11, week 12. So I got him here at 14 for the simple fact that he's going to be a starting quarterback in the league. And Giants spin up to get him. Unless they're wrong, which I don't think they are personally. I told you, he's Brock Purdy 2.0 to me, just a little bit bigger. I think Dart's going to be a good player in the league for a while. And getting him here at 14 in the rookie dynasty draft is a great value. Number 13, Trey Harris. Wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Ended up with the Los Angeles Chargers, and I love this landing spot. They need a receiver they can count on. They got Ladd. They need another guy. They brought back Mike Williams. They still got Quentin Johnson, but bringing back Mike Williams already said they were losing faith in Quentin Johnson, who I like a lot as a coming out. But the mental errors are just, they're just killing him, man. He's taking himself off the field with the mental errors. Last year, they were kind of desperate. They had to keep him out there a lot more than I think they wanted to. After so many mental errors, you get sick of a guy. So they draft Trey Harris here. I think Trey Harris could be a day one starter for the Chargers. and be a fantasy player that you can count on by the second half of the season, maybe earlier. Trey Harris has got talent, and Trey Harris is a big, strong man that's going to be running down the field with the ball in his hand. You get this guy in a crossing route, he's got yak ability, man. That's the word I like to use about guys. Yak ability. He can catch the ball and keep on moving. That's just like Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel's one of those yak ability guys, man. But Trey Harris going to the Chargers, I think, is an awesome landing spot. They didn't draft the early tight end. They got one later, but with Gatson. But getting Trey Harris here, man, I love it. 3 wide receiver sets, 2 wide receiver sets. I think Trey Harris should be on the field at all times. We'll see what happens, but I'm a big fan of his going to the Chargers. I think that's a fantasy gold. Number 12, another guy that maybe I'm going to have higher than a lot of people think, and are going to be surprised that I had him over Jaxson Dart, but it's because I think Tyler Shuck can start this year, especially with the whole Derek Carr elbow injury news. That's why the Saints drafted him in the second round. I love Tyler Shuck as a prospect, man. I know he's got his injury issues. Well, they drafted him as the Saints, and Derek Carr's got his injury issues. So it's fitting. But with Chris Olave, I can never remember the little dude's name, number 22 that runs down the field and catches bombs all day. But Juwan Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Devin Neal, they got solid skill position talent, and if Tyler Shuck ends up starting this year, he could end up starting just because the Saints start off rough and they're sick of Derek Carr. They're like, fuck it, man, we're not going to pay you to be hurt, so we're just going to sit you, like what happened in Las Vegas with him, where they sat him the last few games of his career there because they didn't want to have to pay for an injury guarantee. That could happen again here with New Orleans. And Tyler Shuck, I think, can be a starter in the NFL, no problem. I've already said that much. I think Tyler Shuck could be a starter this year and be helping out your fantasy team at points. Be a spot starter, be a bye-week filler, and grow into more and more as the years come on. So I like him. I got him at 12 here. We move on to number 11. This is going to be lower than some people have this guy, but Quinshad Judkins, running back for Cleveland, like I said with Dylan Sampson, the fact that they drafted Quinshad Judkins would be a top 5 pick if they didn't draft Dylan Sampson. Because I like Dylan Sampson a lot. A lot. Now, the value where they got one, the draft capital, as we say, Judkins was a second-round pick. I think it was a great pick for them. I was happy as hell when they drafted. I was like, yes, fantasy gold, baby. Judkins is going to the Browns. They didn't re-sign Chubb yet. Ford's the only competition. Awesome. 2 rounds later, they draft Dylan Sampson. I'm going, why? Why would you do it? I understand why, because they're trying to win football games. They're not trying to win fantasy football games. But we're trying to win fantasy football. Damn it, Cleveland. I'm still mad at you. I'm going to be mad at you all year, period. Because Ford's a good player. They could have used him if they wanted to use a 2-back system. But all the same, I still think Judkins is going to be the starter to start the season and going to be a fantasy player that we're going to have on our teams for years to come. And you get him here at 11. If Sampson doesn't end up being what I think he is, he's a fucking steal at 11. But right now, this is where I would draft him based off his value. Number 10, Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver for Tampa Bay out of Ohio State. Most pro-ready wide receiver in the NFL draft. Them drafting him at 19 makes me think that maybe Godwin's not going to be fully healthy to start the season. Maybe they're trying to take some load off of Mike Evans because the Buccaneers got a lot of fucking wide receivers. They still got Jalen McMillan last year, who I fucking love, and came on strong in the second half of the season, catching touchdowns. He was being a touchdown machine in the second half of the season. So I was very confused about why they drafted Egbuka for team needs when they need some defensive backs, safeties, corners, maybe a defensive end. It was a very confusing pick. But that doesn't change how I feel about Emeka Egbuka. I love the kid. I think he is the most pro-ready wide receiver, and he will be scoring fantasy points this season for your team and for many seasons to come. But I can't wait to see what he does out there in that Tampa Bay offense. Everybody's going to be healthy. Everybody's going to eat with Baker winging it around. He's going to have fun. He's a fantasy fucking stud to have this year, I feel like. And also a staple back with his running capability. He missed about like 8 yards, but he was so close. But definitely a player that I want on my fantasy team with Egbuka. I want him on my NFL team. I want him on my fantasy team. I want him on my volleyball team. I don't care. Whatever team I got, I want Emeka Egbuka because he's a teammate and a player that I would love to have around. Number 9, Tyler Warren, tight end out of Indianapolis. Now, some people might say, oh, him and Loveland should be flipped. He ended up with Anthony Richardson as his quarterback. I think this is exactly what Anthony Richardson needs. Someone close to the line of scrimmage that's a big fucking target. Adonai Mitchell's nice. He's a little smaller guy. Michael Pittman's big, but he runs way down the field, and Anthony Richardson has trouble with that at times. Pierce, he's a long ball guy. It's hard to see. He just wings it up, and Pierce seems to outrun people somehow. Even though he's not the fastest guy, he just does a really good job of it. But you give Richardson, this big giant, and Tyler Warren to throw the ball to, who can play all over the fucking field. Shane Steichen, hey, man, I've criticized your play calling a lot over the last year. Here's your chance to redeem yourself. Redeem it by getting Tyler Warren and Anthony Richardson on the same fucking page and improve that offense. You got Jonathan Taylor to run play action off of. You got Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, all these downs. You got all these pass catchers, man. But Tyler Warren's that big guy you need close to the line that's going to get Richardson out of trouble when he can't get the ball downfield, when he can't see the Adonai Mitchell on a deep cross or something like that. When he's got to get rid of the ball, Tyler Warren's going to be the answer to where do I go. And Tyler Warren at 9, I just got him into 201 in a rookie draft. I traded up from 207 to 201 because I had Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz. I got the 2 oldest tight ends in the history of the world on that fantasy team. I just moved up to the 201 to draft them about 2 hours ago because I was like, it's time to get Tyler Warren and the future tight end in my fantasy team. You should be doing the same. Number 8, Omarion Hampton. Now, I know some people are going to say this guy should be a top 3 pick. I think with Najee still there and the news that they just I don't even know what exactly they did by restricting J.K. Dobbins. They made him a restricted free agent all of a sudden, or a tendered restricted free agent. I don't know. I'd have to go back into the wording of it and see exactly what the hell. I thought that was over. That process was over where you're putting tenders on people, or he would already been a restricted free agent. But whatever, all the same. They're planning on bringing him back probably on a cheap deal. And with him and Najee there, I think Omarion could start off a little slow. And Harbaugh wants to use 2 backs. You saw that last year with Dobbins and Edwards. Edwards got banged up and Dobbins got banged up. But at the end of the day, he wants to use 2 backs. And for Hampton and Najee both there, it's going to kill Hampton's value to start off with Najee still being involved. Dobbins probably still being involved a little bit. So what we're going to get out of Hampton this first year, I'm not 100% sure it's going to be league-winning, dominant running back play. He's my number 3 running back prospect coming in. He was behind Henderson and Genty only. I know some people had him above Henderson. I don't blame you if you did. That's your personal choice, your personal opinions, how you like running backs, whatever. I think Henderson's special, but we'll get into that. But Omarion Hampton here at 8 is still a great pick. Some people say take him up above. I'm going to tell you why he didn't as we go through those guys. But like I said, I think he's going to be a slow starter to fantasy dominance where he could end up being next year fantasy dominant with Harris and Dobbins now coming back. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Omarion Hampton's league winner this year. I think it's more likely next year is when we're really going to get the value from him. But number 7, the guy that I think can be a league winner this year, R.J. Harvey, running back, Denver. Coming out of UCF. I know he's an older back, so they're not going to waste time getting him the fucking ball. And they drafted him in the 2nd round, which is where I mocked him in my first mock. This kid is Brian Westbrook to me. I'm going to keep saying that. He reminds me of Brian Westbrook, old running back for the Eagles. He can catch the ball. He wasn't like super. He didn't have a huge amount of receptions last year, but he's got hands that can catch. And he's a really good running back, man. And to go with Sean Payton, the landing spot couldn't have been better for him. I was hoping Payton would draft Henderson in the 1st round. They couldn't pass up Jahdae Barron. Okay, I get it. No problem. To continue to build those DBs like you got, do what you do, Payton. You know how to use running backs. You get R.J. Harvey in the 2nd. You did a great job. But RJ Harvey, I feel like can be a fantasy league winner this year. I think he's going to be the Alvin Kamara that Peyton's been looking for, but probably a better running back, a little less of a receiving option, but a guy that's going to be the starter probably day one. Number 6, we get our quarterback, Cam Ward, off the board. Rookie quarterbacks, I'm never big on drafting in redraft leagues and stuff like that. But when it comes to dynasty leagues, obviously you're going to draft him. Cam Ward was the number 1 pick. I don't think I need to explain that. I've already told you. He reminds me of a smaller Big Ben. Big arm, good capabilities. I think Tennessee is going to take a year to really be an effective offense. But they got Callahan. Brian Callahan is the head coach, who was the OC in Cincy. And they got his dad, more importantly, is the offensive line coach, Bill Callahan, who's one of the best offensive line coaches of my life, basically. There's Stout over there that was in Philly. There's a couple other guys, Howard Mudd. But Bill Callahan's one of the best offensive line coaches around. And he's going to get Tennessee whooped into shape. Like I said, we don't know what Tennessee can truly be because Will Levis was the fucking quarterback. Well, now Cam Ward is the quarterback, and I feel a hell of a lot better what they're going to be able to do with that offense. He's here at 6 just because, hey, if you're in a single quarterback lead, he could be further down. If you're in a 2 quarterback lead, you better get this guy by the 4th, 5th pick because there's always a QB needy team. There's always 3 teams that got 6 quarterbacks and 4 teams that got 2 or 1 quarterback. This guy's getting drafted. I probably should have put him at 3, but listen, I'm smart enough to try to keep my quarterback situation in check where I'm not desperate for quarterbacks ever. And if you're a smart manager, you'd be doing the same damn thing. You should always have 3 starting quarterbacks. Trade for one, even if it's a veteran that's further down the list, 24th, 25th player in fantasy. Figure out a trade for him, man, because you want 3 quarterbacks in a 2 quarterback league. You have to have it. Or in a 1 quarterback league, Cam Ward could be the 10th pick in his draft. In a 2 quarterback league, he's a 6th, maybe the 5th. But I love Ted McMillan, and that's who we got at number 5 going to Carolina. And sorry to all the other pass catchers in Carolina. Ted McMillan is the best one they got now. And Bryce Young needs a giant to find downfield because he's such a small little man. He needs to be able to see somebody out there, and I feel like that's why they drafted Ted. Get this dude a fucking giant out there with a wingspan where Bryce throws some lob ball like he loves to do. Ted can go snatch it out the fucking air and save him. Make him look better. Bryce Young came on strong after he got benched and came back in. He showed a lot of progress. Give credit to Canales. He was the quarterback whisperer for Baker and Geno, and now he's the quarterback whisperer for Bryce Young, I guess. But give him credit for where when it's due, which I think it was due with the way Bryce Young played in the second half of the season. Now they get this giant man to go out there for him to throw to, and I think it's a great pick, and I think he's going to be a fantasy stud for years. Just a guy I like a lot, man. But number 4 is the 4th running back on my overall ranking for running backs in the NFL draft, period, for prospects. And where he landed in Pittsburgh, baby. Give me Kaleb Johnson, number 4. Love it. Kaleb Johnson is a stud-ass running back. And he is what Pittsburgh needs. The Najee replacement. Jaylen Warren's still going to be involved. Don't fool yourself. That's why he's here at 4 and not number 1. Because Pittsburgh RB1 is a position you draft every year. And you will get some kind of decent production, if not dominant production. Everybody talks shit about Najee. Najee had a damn 1,000 years for 3-4 years and shit. So you can say all you want about, he wasn't everything we ever wanted. He was better than a lot of shit you've drafted probably in fantasy in your life. And that's why I'm docking Hampton. Because as much as people want to talk shit about Najee is a good running back. And he's a guy that you can count on because he plays all the fucking time. So Kaleb Johnson is a better than Najee running back in my mind and is going to be a stud for the next 5-6 years for your fantasy team. Get him now. Number 3, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, now a lot of people are going to have him at 2, and that's fine. I'm not knocking you at all for having it. I think I put him here mainly because he is going to be playing some DB, which is going to take time away from the offense. It's also because he's got Brian Thomas Jr. as the number 1 wide receiver there. So it's going to be hard to just come in and take all the targets. And say, with that being said, BTJ ain't going nowhere, man. Hunter's going to be there. Thomas Jr. is going to be there. Trevor Lawrence is a winner. And you get Hunter here. If you're in one of those individual player leagues, this guy's going to be getting passes and interceptions and shit for your team. This is a guy you might want to draft number 1 overall at that point. But wide receivers got tons of value. That's the only reason I put him above Kaleb Johnson. But stud running backs are hard to come by at the same time. And Travis Hunter is a special talent. We all know that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Draft him in your fantasy league wherever you want. He should be 3rd or 4th off the board and 2 in some leagues. But number 2, my second favorite running back in the draft, maybe my favorite running back. I like Genty a lot, don't mind you. And he is the number 1 running back on all boards. But Travion Henderson is a special talent to me out of Ohio State, and he was splitting time last year with Judkins. So you didn't even get to see what he could do in a full-time role. I can't wait. Now, they brought him into New England. He's going to be splitting time with Ramondre Stevenson to start, but I think he could take over the starting running back from Ramondre before the season starts, mid-season, somewhere that's going to happen because he's that fucking talented. He is that good. Oh, Arya's in here. She even loves Travion Henderson. She showed up for this. He is a special talent, man. And getting him on your team is vital to me. I just got him at the 7th pick in my draft. I got him at 7th. Then I got turned around and got Tyler Warren at the 201. I got one as a 10-team league. So I got both of those players within 4 or 5 picks. And I'm excited as fuck to have both of them on my team. But number 1, obviously, Ashton Genty. He's got the bell cow running back situation all to himself there in Las Vegas. He's the, 6th pick in the NFL draft. 28 yards shy of breaking Barry Sanders' all-time rushing record for college stats. And is going to be coming in as a stud from day 1. If you don't like Ashton Genty, I think you should look in the mirror and have a conversation with yourself and maybe slap yourself around a little bit because Ashton Genty is going to be a fantasy stud, superstar running back. And he, like I said, he's got it all to himself. McCormick's there. I'm sure he'll get 6 carries a game or some shit, but he ain't going to be affecting Genty at all. Pete Carroll's about to run this man wild. He's going to be catching passes out the backfield. He is a staple back from day 1, period. Travion Henderson could end up being a staple back next year. RJ Harvey could be a staple back this year, period. Kaleb Johnson, possibility of staple back. He'd have to improve on the receiving, and with Warren there, it's hard to say he'll get enough. But Ashton Genty is a guaranteed bona fide staple back. So, number 1 guy on the board. That's all there is to it. Other than that, guys, we're going to be getting into more fantasy here now that the NFL draft is over. Obviously, I'm going to still be talking about the draft or still be talking about regular football stuff because it applies to fantasy football every day. I like talking about the offensive lines. I like talking about teams and what the decisions they're making, moves they're making, whatever else. So I'm always going to include that in my shows. But we're going to be going through a lot of fantasy stuff now, like I said, and we're going to get into it, man. We're going to get deep into dynasty stuff, redraft stuff, winners, losers from the draft. All this stuff is going to be coming. I'm still, like I said, I'm still going to be talking about regular football. Like the intro says, man, this is a show about football and how it applies to fantasy football. And that's what you need to be prepared for when I'm coming on here. Anytime we're not just talking about specifically the NFL draft. But this is 40 guys that you should be trying to get some of them. Many picks as you can, especially in those first 2-3 rounds. There's a lot of talent here to be had, boys. At the running back especially. And wide receiver, there's good talent that might take a year. So, time to go, everyone. Artie's back there trying to take down the sign. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching. Until next time, I'm out of here.